On the last video, we hunted down some mammoths and even tamed one in order to start farming a lot of wood in the nearby area. Now, there is a bit of a problem with that, but I'll mention it in a little bit. For now, check it out. I am starting to build my very first farm. I put down a couple of wood foundations just because the land itself is not really that flat. Also, I think it would be really cool having a little overhang over the river. I put down about 5 of the medium farm plots and even put down a compost pile. Though the compost will take a while, so I had to go around and make sure all of my little pets, just defecated onto the ground so I could pick it up and use it into the farming plot. The brand new pipe system of Ark Survival Ascended is actually quite neat. All you have to do is put in an intake and then put the tap wherever you want. The intake will feed water to the tap automatically without having to have a whole line of pipes running all over the place. I put around a few more decorative items to make it feel a little bit more like home, such as these war drums. But now it was time to go try to tame my own Spikey Boi. I have the hemoglobin cocktail and I have a mammoth ready to go. The mammoth has a ton of HP, so this will be perfect. Now, it did take me quite a while to find one, but eventually I reached the grasslands, where I spotted several of them. I spotted the one that I wanted to tame, and I ran over, giving the mammoth the buff in order to start the taming process. The taming process of this creature is that once you make this hemoglobin cocktail, you have to feed it to your tame. Your tame then has to tank several hits from the creature, and as he is biting your creature, he will become drunk off the cocktail that you have given your creature. Once they are fully drunk, then you can start passive taming them. However, things didn't go as planned, as my finger accidentally slipped, causing me to dismount. As the creature attacked my mammoth, the mammoth stomped him and completely one-shotted him. So yeah, time to look for another one before the cocktail wears off in around a few minutes. I eventually found a second one and quickly ran over to it before the cocktail disappeared. However, that one ended up failing, as well as by the time they started really biting down into the mammoth, the cocktail had expired. So I ended up just having to kill this one and go back home. As I arrived back home, I went to fix my armor and make some health potions in order to heal myself for the next attempt. I also had to make more cocktails. Now, instead of making just one, because that seemed to have been a mistake, I decided to make 3 of them this time around, though it's gonna be a while before I go back out and try again. Plus, the mammoth is still very low health, so I take this time to continue decorating my home. I logged off about this time, but before I logged back on for the next round, I installed finally the Appalachian Creature mod. It is called the Appalachian Desertons mod, and this is what adds in all the new, unique Appalachian creatures, from new creatures altogether to skins and all these various new combinations. So you're gonna start seeing a lot more unique creatures from now on, including this mammoth. It looks completely different to the Ark Mammoth, and that's not all. In the next update that he's going to be coming out with, he's going to be adding a second variant of Mammoth, which is going to be much larger. So at this point, I will be taking a little bit of a detour to see all of the new creatures, but in essence, I am now going to try to tame my own Spikey Boi, but I'm taking Ulf this time around, as Ulf still has all of his HP. It is very high, just like the mammoth, but he's also healed, unlike the mammoth, who, even after like 10 minutes or so, it was still very low health. After playing around with the Titanosaur for a little while, I made it back to the grasslands, where you get to see a bunch of new horse models. So they are taking the place of the Equus. Now, the Equus are not completely replaced, as you can still find them occasionally, but in essence, you have a ton of horse models that are from painted to spotted to all these different colors and styles and types. So definitely I am going to be trying to tame at least one, maybe more later on, but for now I still need to look for my Spikey Boi. I did find one of those Carchodontosauruses or whatever they're called hunting a Gigaraptor. I did get to see the brand new Parasaur that is added with the mod as well, and eventually, as I ventured further into the grassland, I did find a horse with a baby, and just like all of my other tames, I killed the parent and took the baby for myself. Now I've got my own little horse. Now during all of that, I didn't even realize that my dehydration meter had hit 0. Oh no, there's no water nearby, so now I have to go find somewhere to drink. Now it did look like a river was somewhat northwest of me. I headed up there, but I think the map is wrong as there was no river whatsoever. I tried going through the brush to see, oh maybe it's just behind the trees, only to find a freaking Giganotosaurus, so I had to run from them quickly, and I just followed the map until I could find the big river, where I can finally quench myself. Whew, that was a bit of an ordeal. Now I can head back to try to get that new horse I had. But on the way, I found another Spikey Boi. Alright, here's my chance. So I give the cocktail to Ulf and I go to try to tame this one. And for once, it finally worked. It made them completely drunk and I was able to passive tame them with some meat I had brought. Actually, wait, I forgot the meat at home. So I had to go nearby to a Stegosaurus. I killed that and I killed the Stegosaurus baby. I took the prime meat and I used that to tame the Spikey Boi. Now I have a Spikey Boi. Trying to lead them back where I left my little baby horse was a bit difficult, as I think it had to do with the drunk debuff that it had on them, or it was just bad pathing. Either way, as we were leading it back, it kept trying to divert off and run into a tree or run into a rock. I'm just gonna blame it on the drunkenness. Either way, I get back to the baby horse, I make myself a saddle real quick, I hop on top of him, and I lead Ulf and my new Spikey Boi back home. Though not without some issue, as I headed from the grassland back into the forest, we got completely ganked by a ton of different creatures. From a Carnotaur to even terror birds, I believe. And luckily, Ulf and the Ceratosaurus were completely loyal and defended my new horse from being killed. The creature mod was not the only mod I added. I also added one to put up some torches around the base that will not use fuel. Well, I lied. It needs one to get started, but then it doesn't need any more after that. It is all purely cosmetic. So I put a couple of those around my house. I put up a sap collector, but I didn't realize that the sap collector needed to be really high up on the tree. So I'm gonna have to build a ladder in order to reach it. As I start building the ladder, or at least the foundation for my ladder, I get ganked by a Carnotaur. And I was true to my word, I did not kite it like I did the mammoth. I fought it mano a mano with my spear until it finally went down. I did my little victory pose with the Carno like I always do, but then I realized it looked different. This is actually a reskin for the Appalachian map, so that got me wondering, what else haven't I seen yet that is new from the mod? I quickly finished the ladder up into the sap. I had to put a couple of spiral staircases until I could eventually make a platform so I could reach the sap collector. It was also really pretty doing it at night because I had all the green lights illuminating the area at the same time. But eventually I finished it and I said, alright, let's go see what else is out there. So I hopped up on my mount, mainly my wolf, as Ulf is still damaged as well as the mammoth, and I headed back out to the tundra area to see if I could find any new creatures. And eventually I did. I found an Irish elk, but this one is much different than the base game. You could definitely tell the antlers look a lot more realistic rather than the flat, almost moose-like ones that the default game has, and I really like how it looks. Right next to it was also a caribou, which actually did look like a caribou. It was really cool looking. So one of them I decided to hunt, and the other one I decided to tame. I took a quick gamble, and I went for the Irish elk in order to tame while I hunted the caribou. I did have to ride Wolf back as the caribou did give me the slip several times. It is just fast. Also, the pathing is broken, so it takes a tight turn every 5 seconds. But eventually I led it into the river where I got some good hits into it. I went into the river, got my meat, but I also saw that there were some little otters swimming around. So I took this moment to tame one of them, and I named him Floof. Spelled F-L-U-U-F, because I thought that was adorable. And I will take Floof home with me to meet Bartholomew. Though besides the otters swimming around, there are also brand new fish. Now, I didn't realize that at first because I just killed a coelacanth in order to tame the otter, but as I went into the big river outside my base, I found a catfish. And you're gonna find a lot more various types of fish, from bluegill, small and even big mouth basses, and all different types of other fish in this map. It is amazing, and I love the variety of fish. With all of these new additions, I had to give all of them names, so I already told you that I named the otter Floof. I named my horse Ocelot because he's got spots like a cat. I named the deer Thandril, and I named the Spikey Boi just simply Spike. Dropping them back off home, I headed back out to find a Brachiosaur. This is from one of the Arc Additions mods. But even so, they are towering. I think the largest creature in the game, rivaling the Titanosaur. They are absolutely massive and I do not want to mess with it, so I continued on. I found a female caribou, which is just what you expected. It looked just like the caribou, but without the antlers. But even so, it looks so much better than the default that I just had to look at it a little bit longer. Now, remember an episode or two ago where I found the boss arena that's supposed to have the beaver boss? I headed back there now knowing that there is something there. However, I still did not find him. They do not always spawn where they are supposed to, at least the bosses. They are randomly spawned in, so I had to just kill a few things and wait around, but it still didn't spawn, so I will try again later. I continued northeast to explore more of this area that I had not been to before. It very much was a tundra-like area, but there was more than just that. Up into the glacier above me was the red obelisk, completely covered in ice. I had not seen that up until now, so I thought it was absolutely amazing. I tried to get a closer look, but there were just way too many carnivores, including a Spinosaur nearby, that were all trying to aggro on me, so I had to leave. Back at home, I noticed something across the lake there. I used my spyglass in order to see what it was. It was a new model of a bear. As you see, Ursoc right there is the normal dire bear. As I zoomed in with the spyglass, you can see this one is much larger, even hulking. I thought that was absolutely amazing, and I wanted to get a closer look and even see if I could tame this mighty beast. But unlike the dire bears, who are only territorial and attack you when you get close, these bears are highly aggressive and will aggro to you from far enough distance. I quickly got out my crossbow to try to tame it, only it did not work out so well. I don't know if it was just my taming method or if it was the arrows itself, but it ended up killing the bear rather than dropping it in a torpor state. Though I realized later on in another attempt that I do that it is just the way I was doing it, as the arrows is how you torpor it and tame it, but you're not going to see that just yet. I was not discouraged. I still needed to build my army if I had any hope of taking on these world bosses that I've been searching for. Besides the beaver, there are at least 4 or 5 other world bosses that I have not yet found yet, so I need to go out and continue taming to build this army to take all of them on. In this search, back in the grasslands, I found a T-Rex with some odd coloring fighting a Dinotherium. Dinotheriums would be perfect as they are very powerful with a ton of health. However, I do not have the requirements to tame it just yet, so I'm going to have to skip out on this one and continue my search. Back at the river near my base, I found some raccoons. I had not seen these yet, so I followed one around to watch it. It looked like you had to passive tame it the same way as an otter, with a little fish. So I go to try to find a fish to feed the raccoon, though it was not impressed by the massive fish that I was trying to give it as tribute. I think these raccoons are bugged, so I tried an alternative method, which is my go-to: kill the parent and take the baby. But that did not seem to work either, as the babies also required a fish, and it didn't work again with a different fish and a different raccoon. So for now, I'm gonna have to wait until I can get myself a little raccoon friend. At this point, I decided to take a little bit of a break and roleplay. I walked myself through the woods until I could find myself some prey to hunt. And sure enough, I found another deer, which I chased on foot and tried to take him down. It was much harder to do this without my wolf, but I did promise that I was not going to kite every single creature that I tried to hunt this way, so I continued chasing after it, alternating between my bow and my spear. As it got close in its running animation, I would hit it with my spear, and as it got far, I would switch to my bow. Eventually, a terror bird would come out of nowhere and attack and kill my prey. Well, I wasn't gonna let that happen, so I killed the terror bird. While it wasn't the deer that I was stalking and wanting to hunt, it was still a prize nonetheless. After I got in my small amount of roleplay, I headed across the river near my base to find tons of those bears I found earlier in the episode. This time, I was actually going to try to tame it. I put down several bear traps in hopes that it would stop them just long enough so I could use my trank arrows. Though I didn't realize how many bears there were. It got to the point that I had to kite them because there's no way I could take all of them on at the same time. I picked a target and continuously fired at that one as I continued to kite all of the other ones. Eventually, I did manage to take a couple of them down at a time, so there wasn't nearly as many on me at once. Soon enough, the one that I picked out of the group did fall to the torpor. I did try to torpor others, but it didn't work out so well. Either way, as the one was beginning to tame, I continued to try to take them out one at a time, until eventually all of the other bears had fallen. With a companion at my side, I slowly grow my army. I hop onto the bear. Luckily, it does not need a saddle, so I was able to just jump on it right away and take it out for a spin. The bear itself does function like the normal bear, though it does hit a little bit harder than I noticed and have way more health. But anyway, now it's time to actually start taking on the world bosses. So, as of the next episode, you're going to start seeing me taking on at least 2 world bosses. So if you want to see that, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode, and I'll see you next time.